What's up, Kelly?
Oh, just got back from a day in the studio, and to my surprise, got texted by you and Monty at the same time about some crazy stuff.
About the change log that came out today, April 16th, 2025. Um, and I was like, I feel like this is such big news that I need to jump on a call with somebody and talk about it. And you were like, I can do it. And Monty's like, I have dinner plans. So I'm
Which
like,
is fair. Usually,
that's,
actually, I would be having dinner, like not yet. It's pretty early here, but in
yeah.
about an hour. But we're free, we're open, and we have a few minutes to spare. So I thought, yeah, it was a good time for you to
I
text.
I love it. I love you. I love seeing your face. How are things in Canada? Everything good up in Toronto?
Yeah, we're having a Canadian spring right now, which is really annoying. You wake up in the morning,
Snow,
you put on your
warm.
winter jacket because it's minus like 5 or 10 out. And
Uh-huh.
then when I was coming
Celsius
home
for
from
you Americans out there.
when I was coming home from the studio, it was now like +3 or 4, and I was like sweating my butt off. And I was like, it's every day like that. Like you never
Yeah.
know. It could
Yeah.
start warm and end up really cold or start really cold. It's terrible. I hate
Yeah.
this season in Canada.
Oh, shoot.
Probably a few more weeks and I'm going to be able to put the winter jackets away, but we're dealing right now.
Well, I appreciate your attempt to dissuade an American from moving up there, but I'm still coming.
You know, it's probably okay. We were all just very scared for a little while there. And we're still not pleased.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things going on that is unfortunate, and we as Canadians are just like, what the heck, man? Like, I thought we were friends,
Yeah.
but it is
Um,
what it is.
this is me not talking politics. Let's talk about D&D.
Yeah.
So, yes, we just got this massive change log that just hit D&D Beyond. That's making changes mostly to stuff in the player's handbook, and one thing in particular is really big, and the other thing, there's some other stuff that looks really notable to me, and so I thought let's just jump on and just talk about it. And I got my trusty PHB with me so that we can kind of compare, what it used to say, if we want to do that. And we, for the record, I don't think either of us have spent much time looking at this. Like, there's one thing that I was like, oh my gosh, and other than that,
Yeah.
I've just
I'm
kind
I'm
of
here
glanced.
mostly to talk about one thing, but I
Yeah,
definitely when I was waiting to hop on the call with you, I read over everything else and I was like, "Oh, half the time I can't actually I'm not an encyclopedia like Monty is. Monty
right,
can read a rule and memorize it instantly.
right,
I need to like look at it 400 times to memorize it, and I'm not there with the new rules yet. Like I
sure,
haven't memorized everything. So half the time I was like, "Wait, what did it used to say?"
right.
But there are a couple major changes that definitely instantly I did have memorized because they're what I've been talking about on the channel for months.
Mhm.
And now a lot of my videos might need to be flagged
Yes,
as
and
no longer appropriately.
yeah,
Don't listen to me in those videos because I'm
I'm
wrong now.
I'm gonna have to redo some spreadsheets
Mhm.
myself, which but I'm happy about it. So okay, so let's, you know what? Why don't we do this? Let's just go. Let me share my screen if I can remember how to do that.
Now, if we
Do
start at the top, are you and I just going to like break for a half-hour chat about the one thing when we get to it, and then everything else is going to be pretty straightforward?
yes, and that way people will be forced to watch longer, and it will be good for the algorithm.
Awesome. You have to watch longer to get to the
I'll
big actual
I'll
point of this
I'll
call.
I'll put a timestamp in there on when you want to the thing that you really are here for. All right, so you ready?
I'm
Player's
ready.
Handbook, Chapter 4. Okay, so that, and really this won't take very long, right? Because a lot of these things are just kind of little minor things.
Yeah.
Character origins, Goliath traits. In the powerful build trait, you have advantage on any saving throw. to end the grappled condition, I believe it was, is now you have advantage on any ability check to end the grappled condition. That
That's a
makes
nerf in my
sense.
opinion.
Well, okay, now tell me this, because isn't it the case that the initial grapple is a save, but after that it's an
Oh,
ability
sorry, it was
check,
specific to
right?
saves. It wasn't, it was you have advantage on saving throws in regards to being grappled. Now it's ability checks in regards to being grappled. So
To
really,
well, to end the grappled
right.
condition,
So then
right?
with the new 2024 rules, this is just clarification because it's no longer a
It's
saving
no
throw to
longer a
get out.
save.
Yep.
Exactly.
Okay. Never mind. You're right. It is what it is. It's
And
fine.
and if we're wrong, then people will let us know in the comments. So
Yeah.
welcome to off the cuff, casual conversation reaction videos.
Yeah.
Um, so okay, feats. We get some feat stuff, and mostly again, this is just kind of, I mean, so you've got the grappler feat, the fast wrestler benefit. Your speed isn't halved when you move. Is now you don't have to spend extra movement to move. That's
Cool.
basically the same thing.
They're saying the same thing, just
Yeah,
more clear, I
some
guess, in the rules.
clarification. I'm sure there were probably instances where somehow people were, trying to take advantage of or unclear on, you know, how that was working mechanically, but I
I
can't
got
off the top of my
excited.
head think
I
of
got
anything.
excited about this next one until like I got excited when I saw Poisoner listed
Yeah.
because I think Poisoner is a really bad feat. And
Maybe it
there was,
got buffed.
yeah, I was like, did they buff it? Did they fix it? And then I read it. I was like, ah, you didn't do anything.
Yeah, in the brew poison benefits fourth sentence, until you hit with the poisoned item is now until you deal damage with the poisoned item. And I'm assuming the only thing I can think of here is like if you have the Gray's weapon mastery, right?
Yeah,
And you miss, you still do damage. And I'm guessing there's the clarification there is to say, okay, look, if you have a poisoned weapon and you miss them but graze them, and now you're like doing damage even though you didn't hit, and the poison is going to stay on.
right,
You
right.
know what I mean?
Is
And
is there
now,
is there any case where it's the opposite, where you can hit and not deal damage, therefore it is not wasted?
I
I
mean, I
can't think of
suppose
anything, but
if somebody has like, some kind of like okay, so the heavy armor master feat, right, reduces damage by X,
yeah,
and
so I guess
so
if you hit with like your little dagger that's poisoned and
yeah,
then
and
it
you
didn't
don't
do
do
damage, you could
right,
still have it poison. It
like
seems
well, at
very
least it's still
niche,
poisoned, sure.
but there is a possible option there.
So just a little clarification, and then the telekinetic feat in the minor telekinesis benefits second sentence. That's where you get Mage Hand, right? So you have Mage Hand. It used to say its range increases by 30 feet. It's now its range and the distance it can be away from you both increase by 30 feet. So just a little, I guess, buff
Clarity.
to Mage Hand
Yeah,
if
it
you
feels like
needed to be
that's what it was
moving it far
supposed to be
away.
doing
Right,
anyway.
exactly. Um, and then we have equipment. The armor table in the subheading for the shield category. Shield is now shield utilize action to don or doff, and that makes sense because if you look at the armor table, right, um, all the other armor, light armor, medium armor, heavy armor, have like this is how long it takes to don or doff this kind of armor, and now shield has that little thing in the armor table too.
Yeah, cool.
And that's just, kind of
No
nice,
notes
I
on
suppose.
that.
Yeah. And then we get to spells.
This is the
So,
fun part.
yes. All right. So, first up, animal shapes. The spell's last paragraph has been replaced with the following. The target gains a number of temporary hit points equal to the hit points of the first form into which it shapeshifts. These temporary hit points vanish if any remain when the spell ends. The transformation lasts for the duration or until the target ends it as a bonus action. So, why don't we do this? Let me read quickly what it used to say, just in case people are hearing that and going, eh.
Yeah, I don't actually remember what it used to say, so
It
that's
used to
helpful.
say the target gains a number of temporary hit points equal to the beast's form's hit points.
Okay.
The transformation lasts for the duration for each target until the target has no temporary hit points or until the target leaves the form as a bonus action. So now for it to say The target gains a number of temporary hit points equal to the hit points of the first form into which it shapeshifts. That seems to be the big one there.
Yeah, and that the temporary hit points vanish if any remain when the spell ends.
Right.
Um,
So that would prevent any kind of like changing form and like starting your temporary hit points over. Right.
right,
Um,
right. This is just kind of clarity to make sure that you're not stockpiling temporary hit points.
right. And that makes sense because, yeah, on later turns, you can take a magic action to transform the targets again, right? That's part of the spell. And so now, if you do that, you're not going to like refresh their
Yeah,
hit points, give them new hit points according to the new form that you transformed them into, etc.
right.
And that makes sense.
Yeah, that
Okay.
that seems fine.
Um,
Conjure Elemental. So this is not.
here's where we start to get some people might say nerfs, some people might just say fixes. Or corrections. So yeah, let's look at these conjure spells because actually some of these surprised me. I'm not gonna lie.
There was only one that I think needed a
Yeah.
nerf. The rest of
So
these, like, I didn't actually think Conjure Elementals was an issue, but was it?
I mean maybe we just didn't think about it because there was one egregious thing that took all of our attention, right? But so conjure elementals, right? This is the spell where you conjure a large intangible spirit. It appears in an unoccupied space, and then it lasts for what is it, 10 minutes? It requires concentration, right? Whenever a creature you see enters the spirit's space or starts its turn within 5 feet, you can force that creature to make a dex save. If that spirit doesn't have anybody restrained, and on a failed save, on a failed save, the target takes 8d8 damage of the spirit's type, and the target has the restrained condition until the spell ends. At the start of each of its turns, that restrained target can repeat the save. If they fail the save, they take damage. If they succeed, then they're no longer restrained, right? So it's kind of a nice little control option that also can do damage. It used to be that the damage increases by 2d8 for each spell slot above fifth, and now it's been nerfed to 1d8 for every upcast.
I feel
And
like I'm in the middle. Like I don't really like sure is basically my opinion on this one.
yeah,
Sure.
yeah,
I don't know if it was too powerful at 2d8. I also don't think it's too weak at 1d8. Like I think it just
yeah.
kind of it
The
it
the
is.
the reason you cast this is to control a target mostly and
Yeah.
do some damage. And it's like on the one hand, there are probably better control spells. I mean, it's a fifth level spell, right? There are
Yeah.
better control spells out there, especially for wizards, because this is a druid and wizard spell. But it's like, well, do I want to just control a single target? And if so, maybe I use this because I can do some damage to him also. But yeah, it's like you're not casting this because it just does awesome damage, right?
Yeah, I mean, Conjure Elemental in 2024 did not necessarily ever blow me away.
Sure.
And now it's just like,
Now
okay,
it's
you still
now,
lie in the same category of like
yeah,
spells that I might take on a
it's
druid because it's
even
thematic.
less impressive.
Yeah,
Yeah. But it's something. Then you've got Conjure Fey, which similar. These all just got like a damage nerf, right? But in case you needed a reminder, Conjure Fey, this is the one. This is a sixth level spell. It's Druid only, right? You conjure a medium spirit from the Feywild in an unoccupied space. Spirit lasts for the duration. Again, it's 10 minutes. Requires concentration. When it appears, you make a melee spell attack against a creature that's within 5 feet of it. And then on a hit, they take psychic damage equal to 3d12 plus your spellcasting ability modifier. And the target's frightened until the start of your next turn. And then as a bonus action on your later turns, you can teleport it and then make the attack again against a creature within 5 feet. So, it's cool.
it's a mobile. It's kind of like spiritual weapon in a way. Like it's a
Sure.
mobile attacking element on the
Yeah.
battlefield that you can move
Yeah.
around and hit people with.
Yeah, call it
Um,
a more powerful spiritual weapon that it does more damage and has the nice little frightened override, right?
and I think that is why part of me wanted to say I hated that this one got nerfed.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have a blanket increase to your damage based on your charisma, or was it charisma? No,
Wisdom,
sorry,
probably if
wisdom.
it's a druid spell, right?
Yeah, your spellcasting modifier.
You could be a lower
Um,
bard or any bard, I
yeah,
suppose, high enough level, but
and you're frightening the target. So those two things are actually on top of the base dice damage.
right.
So is the nerf really like it doesn't feel that bad because frightening a target is a big thing
Yeah.
to do.
You frighten them. They don't get a save against it either. Like you just have to hit them, right? You hit them,
Right.
you do psychic damage, they're automatically frightened, and both you and the Fae, the conjured Fae, are the source of the fear, right? So that's pretty debilitating. It was going from 3d12 damage as a sixth level spell to 5d12 as a seventh level spell. Now it's 4d12. It's kind of like if I have a seventh level spell slot, and that means I'm at least level 13, right?
Hmm.
Am I going to use that single seventh level spell slot to upcast Conjure Fey to get a couple more D12 out of it? Like, I don't know that I would. Maybe.
I
But
guess
you're
that
doing it to get some damage and to do fear, and it's a nice weaponized bonus action kind of thing.
yeah. I guess maybe lowering it actually reduces the chance of me ever using a seventh level spell slot on it then.
Sure. Upcasting it now feels like I mean unless I'm at a table where, we pretty much always get one combat encounter per day and I've got, a plethora of high level spell slots available to me, maybe, but
Yeah.
otherwise probably not. And I mean a D12 is a D12, that's 6.5 damage every turn potentially if you hold on to concentration, right?
Yeah.
So I still might consider it, but it's definitely much less appealing to upcast now.
That is one that I think they could have left where it was and I would have been happy.
Sure. But then we have the big one, Conjure Minor Elementals. So
Yeah.
everybody in the world, except
Every
for
single person
a
in the world.
few people, yeah, all 8 billion of us have been complaining about this spell since the day it dropped. Because it was so strong and it got so out of control. So yeah, for those who don't know, with Conjure Minor Elementals now, in 2024, you cast it as an action, requires concentration, and then it adds an extra 2d8 damage. It's a fourth level spell. It adds an extra 2d8 damage to every single attack that you make, as long as you hold on to concentration, and that's in itself is hefty. But then, yeah, the real problem was that it scaled so crazy, right? Every single level that you upcast it was scaling by another 2d8. And so, as a fifth level spell, it's doing 4d8 per hit. As a sixth level spell, it's doing 6d8 per hit. And at 12th level, it was doing, or 12th level, at ninth level, it was doing 12d8 per
Yeah.
hit. And that's so much. And especially if you have ways to get lots of attacks, right? As you and I have both built around this spell, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so now it has changed to 1d8. And that I think is kind of the thing that most people were sort of saying, this is the easy answer, right?
Yeah.
Now, well, let me get your initial reaction to the change.
Well, my initial reaction is that we have an entire video on our channel that I'm just like, oh man, our bit like the thumbnail for the video has a picture of like a dragonborn with two weapons that says do 287 damage in one turn.
Yeah.
And that wasn't even like in that video, we do a bunch of math, we
Yeah.
show a bunch of charts, and I'm like, well, I know this needed to be nerfed because you
Yeah.
shouldn't be doing 300 damage in a single turn. It just shouldn't be happening in this game. That's if you can build to reliably execute that, um, you're too powerful. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm like, oh man, my videos. Now, now people are going to watch that and then build the same character and be like, your math's wrong. And I'll be like,
Hey,
I know my
yeah.
math's wrong. There was an
Yeah.
errata. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So my initial reaction is both pleased and disappointed. I will also admit I love looking at power builds. So
Hmm.
Conjure Minor Elementals was like this fun little accident that happened that for a few
Hmm.
months, you and I both know that we got to play some like really crazy uh I don't know what I'm going to use sports analogies. We got to play some really crazy ball with this spell here. Um I don't know what I mean, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
But
We
I'm
scored
s
many goal units
yeah,
with
scored a bunch of
this build.
points in the net with this spell. And now it's been nerfed, and there's the part of me that's like, nuts, my super build is no longer viable. But this is actually good for the game because
Yes.
it was the most broken thing to come out of 2024. And if they didn't fix it, that was a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, no question. My initial reaction was just joy. If
Fair.
I'm being honest, just because even though I also like I've got three builds that I can think of off the top of my head, the Valor Bard, the new Blade Singer, and even the Moon Druid, the new Moon Druid, was using this spell.
Yeah.
And, all of them are kind of near the top of like my highest, hardest hitting builds ever, right? And even to the point where, like, and that's fun. But also, I know two things. One, most people at most tables, I think, based on what I've seen and heard, most people who are using 2024 rules have homebrewed the spell to bring the damage a little more in line, the damage scaling, anyways. And so it's almost like those build videos, like I think most of my audience, anyways, watch them and kind of go, yeah, but like this isn't going to work at my table. You know what I mean? And this is so obviously broken. And then also like I've done, lots of builds now for 2024 and almost every time, especially in the higher tiers of play, tier 3, tier 4 play, like nothing that I do will ever be able to compete with a build that's using Conjure Minor Elementals,
And I
right?
think that's the statement is if the three builds you made that use this spell were your biggest damage dealers ever,
Hmm.
then that means that the spell is actually the problem. And
Yes.
it's the same with like our whole video on, hey, do you want to know how to do 300 damage in a turn? Was all about dual wielding with Conjure Minor
Hmm. Hmm.
Elementals, which again, we made an entire video that basically is proof that that shouldn't be the case.
Right, right.
So, I mean,
So now it feels like, okay, even though I'm probably gonna have to try and find some time here over the next couple of weeks to like go back and redo the numbers, because I keep all my builds in a spreadsheet, right? So that I can
mhm,
compare them to each other. And now I probably need to fix those Conjure Minor Elementals builds so it looks, more accurate, more in line. And that's annoying because that's gonna require some work on my part. But
yeah.
but at the same time, I go, hey, but now like this spell is like back on the table. Uh,
Yeah, it's not getting banned at people's
Back
tables
on the
anymore.
menu, boys. Like,
And
yeah,
like, yeah, my build that I was planning, like my next character is going to be some sort of dual wielding character that's going to strive to get Conjure Minor Elementals.
yes,
Um, but now that doesn't feel like I'm breaking the game by doing so. It still feels like a viable build. And it
yeah,
is still a viable build. All of our builds that we talked about are still completely viable because
totally.
if you upcast it to, okay, hold on, math. Let's say we are upcasting it to like an eighth level spell.
Right. It's
Um,
it's now gonna do, is it 5d8 per? So at fourth it'll do two, at fifth it'll do three, at sixth it'll do four, at seventh it'll do five, at eighth it would do six, right?
I mean, 68
It's a
damage on every
lot.
hit is still just fine in my books.
Mhm.
Like you're
It's a
doing
lot.
plenty of damage there.
Yes.
So nobody's complaining about this nerf. I hope
Right.
nobody's complaining about this nerf.
I don't think so, but you know what? Let's play devil's advocate for a minute because I have had people like in the comment section of these videos where I'm like, look, Conjure Minor Elementals is broken, but in the name of science, like let's use it and see what happens kind of thing. And I've had an occasional person that's like, it's not nerfed. Or I mean, sorry, it's not OP. Like it's fine. It requires concentration, one. So like, you might lose it.
Mhm.
And the biggest one I think actually for me is that it requires an action to cast. And that's true. It requires an action to cast. And that's not nothing, right? Spirit Guardians is a much slower scaling spell that does a similar thing. It's got some extra little overrides too on it, but the main thing about Spirit Guardians, right, is that I mean Spirit Shroud. Sorry, I do that all the time.
Got it. Got it. Cool.
Okay, sorry. Spirit Shroud. Spirit
Yeah.
Shroud does 1d8 per hit. It's a third level spell, but then it only scales by 1d8 for every 2 levels, right? So
Yeah.
as a fifth level spell, it does 2d8. As a seventh level spell, it does 3d8. By comparison, a seventh level spell of Conjure Minor Elementals now would do 5d8, right? Pretty sure I have
Yeah.
that right. Anyways, so it's more. It hits harder. But like, let's not discount the fact that someone using Spirit Shroud could cast it as a bonus action and then make some attacks right on round one, right, and get some decent damage from it right at the beginning. Someone who's casting Conjure Minor Elementals has to use essentially their entire first round of combat to get this spell going. Maybe they can do something cool with a bonus action. But still, it's like by round two, they probably haven't caught up in damage, right? By round three, they've probably pulled ahead, but at
Now you're near the end of
D&D
combat.
in most combat encounters, right? Exactly. Like, was that worth it? Like, would you have been better off getting, a little more damage right at the beginning? Maybe you can take out an enemy and even the playing field for your team and kind of get the ball rolling down the hill, right, to a victory. Whereas, even though you're going to be doing more damage total over time, you might not be seeing the benefits of it until you're in the mop-up phase of the combat encounter anyways. And so did it really matter?
Now, how long does Conjure Minor Elementals last?
Is it 10 minutes? Let's look. It is 10 minutes.
So you so 10 minutes is actually a big grace period. So you could cast it like this is the thing. And there's so many arguments here that go in both directions. But there are a lot of cases in D&D when you know you're going to get into a combat encounter.
Hmm.
You're like, okay,
The
let's
villain's
walk into yeah.
monologuing. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, okay, we're about to break into the thieves' den. We're about to walk into the dragon's lair.
Yeah.
Um, we know, like, there are so many times that you are approaching the villainous stronghold or
Hmm.
the bandits or the whatever. And in those cases, you cast it before you approach
Sure.
and then you approach immediately after, and now you
Right.
have it ready because combat encounters essentially what I it's I always have a hard time with the time limits. I wish that they were like a number of rounds, but then you can't use it outside of combat, so I get
Mhm.
it. But to me, when something says 1 minute, what it actually means is you get it for the full combat encounter.
Right.
When something says 10 minutes, it means you can easily cast this before combat begins.
Yeah.
Um, and that's when something says, something longer than 10 minutes, then it's like, okay, now we get the silly questions at the table where the person's like, hey, do I still have such and such in play? Has it been an hour yet?
Hmm.
And I'm like,
Hmm.
I don't know. Sure, keep it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But 10 minutes tells me that Conjure Minor Elementals can be cast before combat, and you don't need to do the whole, you only have 1 minute to get into combat. You talk to these guys for longer than a minute. Like, it's 10
Sorry.
minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I can walk into the dragon's lair and 10 minutes later be fighting the dragon.
That said, there are also plenty of combat encounters where you're not anticipating combat, right?
Correct.
Whether you get surprised or you come around a corner and there's some bad guys, or you're having a conversation with someone who you thought was maybe a neutral party or a friendly party, and it turns out they're a villain. Or, what have you. And for that matter, I mean, there have been times where I, like you have said, okay, we're going into the bandit's lair. Like I'm going to cast, bless or whatever on my party or, whatever other buff spell before we go in. And then we go in and the room's empty. You know what I mean?
True. Yeah.
And it's like, oh. Now I just wasted my highest level spell slot on something, and I need
This
to
is
take a
also
long
true.
rest before can use it again. And that's fine, right? That's maybe part of what balances the spell potentially.
And
You have to
it's
ask
so
yourself
funny.
that
I think of
question.
Monty as a DM, and Monty's not here to defend himself, so I feel bad. But I think it's so funny that like Monty will say like, "Yeah, you can always just cast these spells before combat," and then meanwhile, Monty as a DM would absolutely be the one to be like, "Do you guys want to do anything before you walk in?" And I'm like, "I use my highest level spell slot," and he's like, "Great, the room's empty." And like he would be that guy, and it's just like, man, you preach it in every video, but then I try it and it somehow gets shut down. um
Just for you. If Jill were to do it, then the
yeah,
room would be full.
he likes messing with me, I know he does.
Yeah.
But it is, and like there are the devil's advocates on both sides of that, so I mean it really is like the 10 minutes does give you grace, but do you know,
Mhm.
like you still need to know when to use that grace.
Right.
And it's not always going to work.
Right.
So sometimes you do blow your first round of combat getting set up for your damage.
hmm And, there are times too, there are some DMs I know, and ours doesn't usually work this way, but plenty do. I think even Matt Mercer, I don't watch a lot of Critical Role, but I've seen something like this happen where you might have the villain monologuing or whatever, and somebody says, "Okay, I cast whatever spell." Often it's like a buff spell or whatever, and he goes, "Well, okay, roll initiative." Uh,
That's a
and
case for
and
both Monty and I too. We both do
yeah,
that as DMs.
yeah. It's like if you're gonna like take an aggressive action,
Yeah.
you can do that on your turn. Let's figure out where you go in the turn order.
And yeah, casting any spell is seen as an aggressive action unless
Right.
it's a subtle spell. Is this a case that you should pick up? I guess you're dipping into 2014 here, but you should pick up what is it, Eldritch Adept? No, the other one.
Oh, like you mean the
The one,
sorcerer, the
yeah,
meta
the one
magic
that gives,
adept?
yeah,
Meta
that's it,
magic
Meta
adept?
Magic Adept. Um,
Um,
just to grab like subtle or quickened,
sure.
because
Yeah,
if you
that's what
grab
I was gonna say.
quickened,
Because
yeah,
subtle would work sometimes. Quicken would work all the time.
all the time,
In that
yeah,
it's now a bonus action, and you can still make your attacks, right?
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. When I see this, I go, oh, I want now if Conjure Minor Elementals is back on the menu, I always want to have Quicken spell to use it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that just makes round one so much better. All right, so that's all I have to say about that. Any other additions to Conjure Minor Elementals you want to add, or do we
No,
move
I
on?
think I overall I think we got the discussion points in there. I'm okay with this nerf.
Yeah. Oh
But
yeah.
I'll miss my hefty build.
It'll still be good.
It'll
It
still
just
be
won't
good.
be it just won't be out of control, crazy, ridiculous. Okay. Next up, Conjure Woodland Beings, the using a higher level spell slot subsection. Level 5 is now level above 5 is now level above 4. That I think was obvious. This was just, this was it was like a misprint, I think.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
just kind of
they're
like,
fixing typos.
yeah. Giant insect. In the hit point entry, 10 for each spell level is now 10 for each spell level above 4.
Also
Again, kind
just
of the same
feels like a
thing.
typo that they
Yeah.
fixed.
But now the next three I think are worth talking about. Polymorph, shape change, and true polymorph, right? These all kind of turn you and or somebody else into either a beast or kind of any creature, right? In the latter cases.
Yeah.
And this, these were all changed for those who didn't know. In 2024, they were changed to you don't have the hit points of the creature that you're turned into. You have temporary hit points, right? Equal to those that creature's hit points. And they basically are all getting a change to say these temporary hit points vanish if any remain when the spell ends.
That makes sense to me.
Yes. And what's interesting to me about this is not the fact that now the temporary hit points go away when the spell ends, but the fact that they mention and specify these temporary hit points. Because just earlier today, you and I and Monty had a conversation about Armor of Agathys.
Yeah,
And,
which is
I've
not in this errata, which I was
no,
scared.
it's not. And well, and that to me is telling that we could probably have a whole conversation on what was not included that maybe we think should have been or we would have expected to be, right? And for me, if you would have asked, Armor of Agathis might have been at the top of that list for me because for those who don't know, in 2014, Armor of Agathis very specifically says that like when these temporary hit points, I don't have the wording in front of me, right? But when
Yeah,
the temporary hit points from the spell are gone, then the spell ends, right? And in 2024, they sort of very intentionally, it would seem, maybe some would argue, removed that word these from the spell, indicating,
implying that if you had temporary hit points, as long as you didn't lose them all.
right.
So if you have Armor of Agathys up and you
Mhm.
get reduced to one temporary hit point, but then you replenish temporary hit points from another source, the spell remains up.
Right.
Seems
And
to be the
and
implication.
and the spell lasts for an hour,
Yeah.
right? And so yeah, there's all kinds of potential shenanigans you can get into. That
Watch our channel
should we, yeah,
soon for a video on that.
spoiler alert, or just a teaser.
Yeah,
That
Monty and I
that
had some fun with what I think is probably the weirdest build we've ever made. So I'm excited. But that's all playing with Armor of
yeah,
Agathys. That's
and I love what you guys came up with. And we were chatting about it this morning, and I was like, the only reservation that I have is like, I'm not sure. I know that the way it's worded, it would seem that, as long as you have temporary hit points from any source, then like the spell kind of keeps working. But I have a hard time believing that that was intended. Um,
But here
and
we are with a big errata that
here we
specifically
are.
seems to point out temporary hit points on multiple fronts,
Mhm.
but noticeably left out Armor of Agathys.
Left out Armor of Agathis, and I mean not only that, but like very specifically are including the word these in all of these spells, right?
Yeah.
These temporary hit points vanish if any remain. These temporary hit points, and so yeah, I'll just read how Armor of Agathis reads here in the 2024 Player's Handbook. Protective magical frost surrounds you. You gain 5 temporary hit points if a creature hits you with a melee attack roll before the spell ends. The spell lasts for an hour as long as, and it doesn't require concentration, right? With a melee attack roll before the spell ends, the creature takes 5 cold damage. The spell ends early if you have no temporary hit points, just like you said. And so, yeah, it's like, well, if I get down to one and then I cast false life on myself or, something else that's going to give me some temporary hit points, now Armor of Agathis keeps working. And yeah, I was kind of like, oh, I know rules is written that you can, that's probably, what it means, but it just feels wrong. And I've been resisting that. And I
Oh,
get
it feels right,
comments.
Colby. I love the build that we made because it's so wacky
Yeah.
but also I think something that you need to take into account here. You never have a lot of temporary hit points. And
Sure.
at high level play, it's
It
a
can go quick.
fickle, you're playing with a fickle build here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it could work really, really well in some combat encounters, but if you're fighting like a dragon at
Hmm.
high level, like it's an ancient dragon and it hits you and you take 60 damage, like
Right.
your build just flew out the window if you're
Sure.
relying on armor. So like there are so many cases when you're fighting big monsters that it's just not gonna like this is the build that we made that relies on like constantly replenishing your hit points, your temporary hit points, which I don't want to give too many spoilers for the build, but it's great against minions.
Sure.
Like you're slaughtering minions and like maintaining your and if they hit you, they die. It's the Thorns build from Diablo, but even
Yeah.
your Thorns build from Diablo didn't work well when you were fighting the Butcher and he just hit you for like 200 damage and he took like this much and you
Hmm.
die.
Yeah.
So like that is the same problem with the Armor of Agathys build. So I think it's fine how it's being taken because you're still not like it's a very fickle concept.
Yeah. I've had a lot of comments of people asking me to build around this, right? And I'm always just like, no, I don't know if I will. I don't know if this
You
was
can point them
intended.
all
I'm
to
gonna
our
wait.
future video.
Well, now I kind of feel like after this very obvious absent update to Armor of Agathys, I kind of feel like all right, like I think it's time for me to just like accept that this is intended until we're told otherwise, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, like time for me to put a Thornlock build on the menu, I guess, on the to-do list because I have an old Thornlock build that was kind of all built around intentionally trying to get hit and how much damage could we return when we did kind of thing. And
But you're gonna have to figure out a way to make it different. I think ours is pretty cool. I want to talk about it, but I can't. I don't
yeah,
want
no,
to.
it would be. I think it would be more, it would be, well, it would be multi-classed with something other than the way you guys are going, I think.
Cool, cool.
So yeah, anyways. Um, okay, there's not a lot else here. Appendix B, creature stat blocks.
I did find, yeah, there was the monster manual stuff. The Dungeon
Right.
Master's Guide stuff seems
Yeah.
boring.
Um,
Like it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, there's some rules glossary like clarifications,
Yeah.
and and now as a grappler, you can release a target at any time, no action required. There's some clarification on hide, saying that you only have the invisible condition while hidden. That makes sense, but then yeah, some DM toolbox stuff in the Dungeon Master's Guide, um,
Monster manuals
which
seem to actually get some pretty cool
yes.
upgrades,
Yeah,
which I
and
noticed.
I
White
wonder,
dragons, I'm actually kind of surprised. To me, the white dragon is the least charismatic, but
mhm,
maybe that's just because that's what the stats told me. But
yeah,
maybe they're allowed to be charismatic.
yeah, most of these seem to me like they're buffs to monsters, right? And maybe we don't need to go over each of them, but
No,
yeah, the ancient white dragon got a charisma buff.
a lot of
We're seeing
times
some
I've
AC
noticed
buffs.
they've added the word each so that instead of one a day, it's one a day each because that could be confusing for like spell lists. When it
Sure,
says one a
sure.
day, a lot of people might have been like, oh, I only get
Oh,
one of these a day.
one
And it's like,
spell, yeah,
yeah, but it's one each of the following.
right.
So that was fixed.
Yeah, other than that, I mean, I guess some of them are nerfs. The Baylor got their hit points reduced.
The goblin
Um,
boss can't shoot you from 320 feet away anymore.
right. That's yeah. I mean, they could still shoot you from 230 feet away if they took the sharpshooter feat, anyways, without disadvantage.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, there's some good stuff. I'm actually looking that the Ice Devil. Okay, good. It's not hitting any harder. I just put out a tank build. This week that where I'm pitting my characters against Ice Devils, and at one point, and I was like, oh no, I'm gonna have to go redo those numbers, but I don't. So yeah, there's some good stuff in here from the monster manual. Most of them are just some minor buffs to some of the monsters to make them that much more formidable.
Which I love because we already had some pretty formidable monsters.
Yeah. So, all right. Let me end the share here. Stop share. So yeah, in case you didn't know and you wanted to see this for yourself, just go to dndbeyond.com/changelog to find all these if you want to read them over yourself. I guess I should have probably said that at the beginning. Maybe I'll put some floating text down there, but
There.
that's pretty much it. This is mostly a holy cow, they fixed Conjure Minor Elementals video, but I thought it might
Yeah.
be fun to just, you know,
I
talk
mean,
about the other stuff too.
there's some, it's always good to go over the errata because it does impact our games. But I think this was definitely like you and I hopped on a call to discuss Conjure Minor Elementals. That was the
Yes.
purpose. Our message wasn't, hey, there's a new errata out. It was, oh my God, Conjure Minor Elementals is fixed. Look at the document.
Yeah.
So that's what brought us here. But I hope that everybody enjoys learning all of the little changes and erratas happen. Um, I think we all kind of called this
Yeah.
when the books launched. We kind of knew this was coming.
Yes, and I was kind of thinking there was a part of me that was like, when are they ever gonna are they gonna do a Sage Advice Compendium ever again? And how long are we gonna have to wait? So I'm pleased that that they got it out. I mean, it's been 8 months. 8 months
Yeah.
since release, something like that. So it took a minute, but
And I
at
think that
least we
this
got
is
it.
important to note. Like I know that there's some people out there who there's always this opinion that I see that I just like I think people need to like understand how much work goes into managing
Hmm.
rules in a game.
Hmm.
A lot of people are like, well, why did they need to update the rules? Not
They should have
necessarily the
got it
big
right the first
update.
time.
They should have got it right the first time. But here's the
Yeah.
thing. They're playtesting with a group of like 20 people. And then you release it to the millions.
Hmm.
And then you start getting boatloads of feedback. And there's always the cracks that start to show themselves. I mean,
Sure.
in my opinion, the whole reason why we have 2024 D&D in the first place is because after 10 years of 2014, a lot of cracks had revealed themselves.
Yeah.
And they were like, maybe we can fix some of those cracks. And they did in the most part,
Yeah.
except Ranger, but we won't get into that. But this is just another example of like, okay, it's been out for 8 months, 8 months.
Hmm.
Um, and there's a few cracks that we're starting to see. So why not just release a document that says, hey guys, rather than breaking your game with the Conjure Minor Elemental spell, why don't you actually use it? Because we can fix that with one simple number change.
Right. Right.
And I think that that's good. It's good. It actually shows a dedication to keeping the game fair
Yeah.
when they release errata.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it's great for them to be able to say, "Hey, like, we got this one wrong.
Yeah.
So here's a fix." And of course, the great thing about D&D and any TTRPG for that matter is that you can kind of do what you want, right?
Yeah.
You can play with the old rules if you want to. Probably a lot of people had changed it already, right? And homebrewed it
Yeah.
themselves. So,
I do always say it's good though to have your foundation be solid. So like if
sure.
everybody was changing the rule, I mean that's another complaint we got a lot with 2024. It's like, well, I was already doing these things in my game, and it's like, yeah, but now people who are buying the book for the first time
Mhm.
know to do those things in their
Right.
game.
And
And so this is a case where like,
if you're gonna play
yeah,
an Adventure League game, it's kind of working better
yeah.
from the get-go.
If in my opinion, if there's something that everybody's homebrewing anyway, it actually is important to bake that into the next book.
Yeah, yeah,
Just to be like, well, okay, now it's official.
yeah.
Now nobody needs to be confused. You don't need discussions online of like, actually it works better if you do this homebrew thing. It's just like
Right,
now the rule just works. So
right.
I think the fix to a lot of these spells just works and it's good for the game. And I think 2024 is actually riding this like kind of beautiful line where like there aren't too many things that are super broken anymore. I feel like not having, Monty and I got ragged on all the time for constantly in every single video we in 2014 we mentioned Polearm Master and Great Weapon Master.
Hmm.
It's like if you were making a melee build that wasn't Great Weapon Master, Polearm Master, then you were doing it wrong.
Hmm.
But now in 2024, I feel like you're actually like, oh, dual wielding is viable. You can still go Polearm Master, Great Weapon Master, and it's viable. I mean, ranged kind of took a bit of a dive, but I also think it
Hmm.
was probably I mean, I've seen ranged characters do some stupid things in 2014. So
Yeah,
I want to see how it comes out in the wash, but I'm
yeah,
actually feeling like it's more viable to play multiple types of builds and fixing Conjure Minor Elementals just further tells that story that like, well, now the Conjure Minor Elementals builds, they're still good, but they're not broken.
right. And speaking of, yeah, multiple builds, ranged, heavy weapon, two weapon fighting. I just finished a script for a build that is both. It's a hand crossbow sword, hand crossbow in one hand, sword in the other, which
Yeah.
was difficult to pull off in 2014. You could do it, but I think it works a lot better now,
We
and I'm super
homebrewed it. Like
excited.
my rogue is a rapier and a hand crossbow.
Hmm.
And Monty just was like, yeah, it's a repeater hand crossbow, so you don't actually need to load it.
Yeah,
It's already loaded. And that was like we just like hand waved it
there
because
you go.
it's so cool to have the
Yeah,
rapier and the hand crossbow. Like
yeah,
you want to do that as a rogue.
for sure.
So I think that that's one that I'm glad is just like, yeah, let people have the crossbow sword combo. It's
Yeah.
just badass.
So the next errata is going to make it so that Hunter's Mark no longer requires a bonus action to transfer when you hit Hunter level 5, and then it no longer requires concentration at Hunter level 11.
I'm sorry, but the next errata might need to be a alternate class features for the Ranger that once again just is like, oh, it's kind of just a new Ranger. But actually, maybe they won't do that because Monty and I might be cooking something in the labs for a lot. Anyway, I've already said too much. Nothing. Don't worry about it.
You're not working on anything.
Not working on anything. There's no secret alternate class features coming in a future book, but.
I can't wait to not see that book that won't exist.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just hand you everything. We'll probably be telling you about it years before it's actually a thing. So stay
Well,
tuned.
all right. Thanks so much for doing this with me. I love you. You're awesome.
And I love you too, man. It's always, I mean, any excuse to hop on a call and talk to you is a good time. I
Yeah.
doesn't even need to be about D&D. We can just chat about other things.
Yeah. In
Probably not
fact,
for an audience. I don't know.
I'm gonna stop recording now so that we can chat about other things.
Okay.
So I can't wait to see you at Gen Con in a few months, or maybe
Yeah,
before if I can find some time to get away and come back up to
you're
Toronto.
you're you're going to be in a bunch of our stuff, aren't you?
Hmm. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
gonna
we're
be
going to
on some
be
panels together. It'll
we're
be
doing
awesome.
some stuff together. I'm
Yeah.
excited. So for everybody out there who wants to see the Dungeon Dudes and Colby kissing on stage, I don't want to promise that. I don't know.
I mean, it's a good teaser.
Yeah, we'll
It's a
at
good
least
teaser.
hold hands on stage.
Yes,
That can
that we
happen.
will promise. All right, man. Take care. Thanks for watching, everybody. Oh, geez, if you, for some crazy reason, like don't already follow and subscribe to the Dungeon Dudes, please do so. I'm sure, like, I mean, come on. If you're watching my channel, you're watching theirs too.
I
But
feel like we're like brother channels, you know,
for
like
the,
we're
I'm like the little brother.
okay. I mean, we
I'm the
see you
little
as
eccentric.
I mean, we call you out in like so many videos now. It's like every time we're like, you can make a build that does this. Need proof? Watch this guy.
Yeah.
Um,
Speaking
yeah.
of, you guys have a video coming out tomorrow
Yeah.
that I make
And
a
you're in it.
cameo appearance in. So there you
Yeah.
go.
I
Stay tuned for
love
that.
I love the little clip at the start with the if you want proof, watch this guy. Hey, I heard that. Uh
Yeah,
anyway,
that
it's
was
good.
fun. That was fun to make. Okay. Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching, and bye bye.